We're going to be debating this morning the issue of drugs in sport, and the motion is allowing the use of enhancement drugs will not undermine the spirit of sport. So, our first speaker against the motion, Ranik.
While I was in the 10th grade last year, a friend of mine really set me thinking. Ronak, he asked, why do you play so much table tennis and cricket? What do you get out of it? A fair question, and I'll try to answer it here. I've realized that sports improve my mood. Those little frustrations I sometimes have at the end of the day vanish when I hear the satisfying sound of bat on ball. I'm also fitter, less lazy, more active and more energetic on the days that I play. I play then for happiness and for health. Two words, happiness and health. Two words that exemplify in every sense the spirit of the recreational sportsman. The use of performance-enhancing drugs are linked to serious health problems, including heart attacks, certain types of cancers, and a greatly reduced life expectancy. Performance-enhancing drugs undermine one of the primary goals of a sportsman, the pursuit of a healthy body. If drugs were to become synonymous with sport, every parent would think twice before enrolling her son or daughter in a nearby football camp. There'd be less and less young people taking up sports. This will eventually lead to sports popularity reducing. Less people playing the sport would mean that there would be less people following the sport. I firmly believe that reform is preferable to surrender. The current testing regime is not perfect, but better research and funding could greatly improve our fight against doping. The appropriate response to cheating is not to legalize it. Rather, is to establish a culture of sportsmanship which encourages competitors to play with a commitment to respecting the intrinsic purposes of sport.
This anti-doping that you say, that will always be a level behind. There are innovations, there are designer drugs for doping, but anti-doping will always be a level behind. So why allow, how do you justify that?
See, the statement that anti-doping laws are very difficult to implement, therefore the policy is bound to fail. You're not going to implement it, the testers will be one step behind the creators. Now the statement itself violates the spirit of sport, because sport has always been about overcoming the odds, achieving the difficult, going for the impossible. And also the point in contention in this debate is whether the inclusion of performance-enhancing drugs undermines the spirit of sport. Once we agree that yes, doping violates the spirit of sports, tackling it, finding practical ways to tackle it would be an entire different argument altogether.
And as far as the health risks that you talk about, when you are sick and your mom gives you a nice tablet, even that tablet is bound to have some side effects.
Okay. Drugs that today cure abnormal physiological conditions have a whole host of side effects, but they're used because the side effects are the side effects are not as bad as curing the problem. They cure the problem, but they induce a side effect which is not as harmful.
Okay. So the second question to team opposition. While team opposition hadn't had a clear view of the concept of sports or the spirit of sports, it was in the Olympian times when concept of sports was to showcase skills. But today it's all commercialized. Now the desire to win has become the concept of sports. So don't you think that doping, using drugs in sports is rather strengthening the concept of sports in today's scenario, that is the desire to win?
Okay.
Also the question about how sports is about striving to be better.
Okay.
Also the question about how sports is about striving to be better. I want to ask, is it only about striving to be better? If that were the case, there are pitching machines that bowl faster than us. We could use them. There are motorbikes that sprint, that work faster than us. We could use them. I think sport is about pinnacling human excellence. And when you bring in chemicals, it changes the meaning of sport.
Right, the way this works is that each of the individual judges gets to choose somebody that they give an honourable mention to. That means that you, if you get an honourable mention, was somebody that they particularly wanted to credit. And they'll read your name out, and when they read your name out, they're going to do it so that they basically tell us why first, and then who. And when the name gets of an honourable mention, you then stand up and take a bow, and we all clap. I'm handing over now to the chair of the individual judges, Dolan Cummings.
Okay, just another reminder that we don't know the results from these guys, so you can't glean anything from who's won individual prizes. First of all, I want to give my honourable mention to someone who actually lost in a narrow, very narrow first debate in the first round, but who I think was exemplary in sticking around afterwards and really competing in all the other sessions and speaking from the floor and making some very good, incisive points and questions. And that's Ronak Pednekar from Jandabai Narsi School.
Winning arguments that matter in the world. I don't know about you, but I think there's lots of things in this world that are unjust and need to be changed and need to be challenged. I am pretty convinced that I could run the world better than anyone else. I'm pretty convinced that my arguments are more, better than anyone else's arguments. But how am I going to do anything about that? I have to convince people like you to agree with me. If you want me to join your better world, you have to convince me too. The only way we can do that is through proper intellectual exchange and argument. And in order to do that, you need to do a lot of reading, a lot of thinking, and be very brave.